Welcome to the Leadership and Influence Workshop. They say that leaders are born, not made. While it is true that some people are born leaders, some leaders are born amid adversity. Often, simple people who have never had a leadership role will stand up and take the lead when a situation they care about requires it. A simple example is parenting. When a child arrives, many parents discover leadership abilities they never knew existed to guide and protect their offspring. Countless war stories of simple GIs and sailors who rose to a challenge on their own in the heat of battle. Leadership potential exists within each of us. Outside events can trigger that potential or be learned by exploring ourselves from within. This training takes the latter approach. Once you know the techniques of authentic leadership, you can build the confidence it takes to take the lead. The more experience you have acting as a genuine leader, the easier it will be for you. It is never easy to take the lead, as you will need to make decisions and face challenges, but it can become natural and rewarding. Leadership is not telling others what to do. Leadership is inspiring others to do what needs to be done. Many people around the world who are in leadership positions are not leaders. Dictators call themselves leaders, but they are not. They are tyrants. There have been many presidents of the United States, but few were natural leaders. Genuine leaders take a stand and motivate others to join them in a noble purpose. One such leader was Abraham Lincoln, who ended slavery in the United States. Another was John F. Kennedy, who inspired a nation to go to the moon within a decade, and it did. General Patton had a completely different but no less effective leadership style. What makes a leader, and what separates the good from the great? This workshop will explore leadership theories and examine what makes a great leader. Influence is subtle yet incredibly powerful. You can order someone to do a task, but you cannot call them to do their best. It simply does not work and usually has the opposite effect. You can influence people to do their best by providing a robust and motivating example in addition to positive reinforcement. Leadership addresses tasks, while influence addresses attitudes and awareness. Influence is the soul of leadership. Research has consistently demonstrated that learning occurs more easily and rapidly when clear goals are associated with learning. With that in mind, let's review our goals for today. By the end of this workshop, you will be able to define leadership, explain the great man theory, explain the trait theory, understand transformational leadership, understand the people you lead and how to adapt your leadership styles, explain leading by directing, explain leading by coaching, explain leading by participating, explain leading by delegating, learn both Kouzes and Posner, conduct a personal inventory, create an action plan, establish personal goals. A quote by Anne Sweeney that illustrates what we are looking to accomplish in this workshop is: define success in your own terms, achieve it by your own rules, and build a life you are proud to live. The parking lot is a visible place on our bulletin board where we will park ideas that arise that are not on the agenda, may be off topic, or are better addressed outside of the program. At the end of the session, we will review parked ideas and follow up or make suggestions for your investigation when you are back at work. Let's do an icebreaker to get our minds warmed up for learning. Whose birthday is closest to today's date? I ask that individual to leave the room. Now that the person with the closest birthday has left, everyone else, Please choose a leader from your circle. When the person returns to the room, they will have 3 guesses to name the leader of your group. The group's job is to ensure that their leader stays a secret. I will give you 10 minutes to decide how you will do that. Now that the closest birthday person is back in the room, I will give them 3 chances to identify the group leader. If they succeed, the leader will become the new spot. If they fail, they will stay as spot for another round. We will then repeat this same exercise twice more. Now that we have completed our 3rd round, let's debrief. How did you keep the leader a secret? How did Spot guess the leader? How difficult was it to be Spot? How difficult was it to be the leader? What can we take away from this exercise? Let's define leadership. At the front of the class, I have a flip chart and have written leadership at the top of the page. Please give me the qualities that you identify with leadership. Now that we have more than 10 qualities, let's rank the list in order of importance. Using the goal card in your workbook, select a leader you would like to work towards emulating some or all of their leadership qualities. Then, pick 5 traits you most want to develop. Place the card in a visible place in front of you. You will have 15 minutes to complete this exercise, and then we will discuss it together. As long as there have been leaders, there have been those who tried to determine how and why they were successful. Leadership itself has not evolved, but our understanding of it has. Understanding why very different leadership styles can be effective. Why the same techniques will not work in every situation, and which style fits your personality best is essential. Everyone has leadership potential, but understanding these concepts will help you maximize your leadership ability. Simply speaking, leadership is defined as the ability to lead. Unfortunately, this is not very helpful. A better definition comes from the BNet Online Business Dictionary. The capacity to establish direction and to influence and align others toward a common goal, motivating and committing them to action and making them responsible for their performance. Although this is more descriptive, it is not substantial. It does not tell us what leadership is, but what it does. The mark of a true leader is not a position or title held, but how many people are willing to follow them. Santa Clara University and the Tom Peters Group outline the following leadership characteristics: honest, competent, forward-looking, inspiring, intelligent, fair-minded, broad-minded, courageous, straightforward, imaginative. The United States Army offers 11 leadership principles. Be tactically and technically proficient. Know yourself and seek self-improvement. Know your soldiers and look out for their welfare. Keep your soldiers informed. Set the example. Ensure the task is understood, supervised, and accomplished. Train your soldiers as a team. Make sound and timely decisions. Develop a sense of responsibility in your subordinates. Employ your unit by its capabilities. Seek responsibility and take responsibility for your actions. You will notice that none of the above tells you how to lead practically. They don't address what to do or say in any given situation. That is because there is no actual formula for being a leader. Leadership must come from within, and it is based on your personality. In this training, you will learn how to develop your innate leadership abilities and build the confidence required to be a true leader. Historical leaders. Throughout the centuries, there have been leaders. We are social animals who bond together, but we look for order against the chaos of life. We look to be organized to accomplish tasks as a society that we cannot perform individually. As a result, someone inevitably ends up in charge. Historically, leaders have generally belonged to one of three categories: political, military, or religious. Political, around 1790 BC. Babylonian ruler Hammurabi created the codified laws, which unified his empire in what was seen as a fair order, as all people were subject to the same rules. Military. Sun Tzu was a military general in China from 500 BC. He wrote The Art of War, and although he was a great military leader, his book is about how to not use armies except as a last resort, focusing more on wise political policies and strategies to prevent war. Religious. It may be said that religious leaders have had the most significant impact on their societies, with results that last for centuries. Modern leaders. With the rise of the Industrial Revolution, a new kind of leader emerged: economic. The so-called captains of industry found they could build an empire using modern technology instead of swords. Oil barons, railroad magnates, and factory owners made large fortunes without the benefit of armies, often at the expense of the employed people. This gave rise to union leaders and various movements designed to promote justice where abuses were perceived to exist. The Industrial Revolution also increased the number of scientific leaders, as scientists now had easy access to a wide range of new materials for their work. Psychiatry and psychology came into prominence with studies on the workplace concerning improving productivity and the effect on the workforce. Studies have shown consistently that workers are more productive in a positive work environment. The attitude and influence of the boss is a significant factor in this productivity. If employees feel listened to, respected, and treated fairly, they are happier in their work and perform better than those who feel disrespected and unappreciated. Which kind of work environment would you prefer? The Great Man Theory. The Great Man Theory was abandoned in favor of behavioral science theories. It's easy to be inspired by stories of great men and women who did extraordinary things in their lives. Alexander the Great conquered the known world. Genghis Khan then ravaged most of it. Abraham Lincoln freed the enslaved people. Harriet Tubman saved hundreds from slavery in the Underground Railroad. Mother Teresa aided and comforted thousands in Calcutta who were abandoned by society. The theory goes that these people did extraordinary things because they were simply great people, determined by fate and fulfilling their destiny. The trait theory. It has often been said, great leaders are born, not made. The trait theory takes this saying literally. If you can be born with it, with no way to learn those searches, theory expands on the great man theory by defining what makes great leaders great. Today, we recognize that authentic leadership seems to come from combining both theories and more. As we have seen, there are wide varieties of leadership qualities. Everyone has some ability in at least one or more of these areas. This means that under the right circumstances, anyone can rise to a leadership role and be successful based on the leadership style that best matches their personality, if they know how to use that ability to address the situation at hand adequately. Other leadership skills can indeed be learned, developed, and mastered. Transformational leadership. In 1978, James MacGregor Burns introduced the idea of transformational leadership as he researched political leaders. Burns theorized that transformational leadership is a process where leaders interact with their followers and inspire each other to advance together. His characteristics and behaviors demonstrated the differences between management and leadership. People and organizations are transformed due to the leadership style and abilities of the leader, who can convey a vision and guide the transformation. Bernard M. Bass in 1985 added to Burns's transformational leadership theory by shifting the focus to the followers. It is not the individual traits and vision of the leader that matter as much as they can influence their followers' feelings, attitudes, and commitment. If people feel they can trust a leader, or, better yet, admire one who can stimulate a sense of loyalty and respect, they will go beyond what was initially expected of them and do so happily. As a result, productivity and unity increase. A charismatic, motivational leader transforms the followers. Summary. Through all of the studies, we have seen a variety of attributes and abilities associated with leadership, which vary from leader to leader. Some leaders are great orators, others great writers. Some leaders are reticent, but the force of their logic or passion wins the day. The difference between a good leader and a great leader is partly the number of leadership skills they have developed. The other part is their ability to apply those skills properly to those who would follow. We will address these issues in the next section.
An introduction to leadership theory. Here is a short introduction to some of the most important leadership theories, trends, and models. These can all be instructive in understanding your own leadership style, broadening your expertise, and giving you tools to improve as a manager. Great Man Theory. The Great Man Theory is one of the oldest theories in leadership. It is the idea that true leaders, or heroes, are born with the innate ability to shape history. Thomas Carlyle was a historian, and he came up with a theory based on the examples of key historical figures such as Napoleon Bonaparte. However, this premise, that leaders are born not made, has largely been refuted. The main importance of this theory is that it reveals how we have traditionally seen leaders. Carlyle's work also gave impetus to the study of leadership and development of further leadership theories. Control and domination, power and influence. Great Man theory was linked to the idea of power, and that leaders would naturally dominate others by the strength of their personality. This school of leadership theory is summed up in Moore's definition of leadership from 1927. He defined leadership as the ability to impress the will of the leader on those led and induce obedience, respect, loyalty, and cooperation. The point to note here is that there's no reference to the responsibility of a leader for their followers or to any moral code. It took the extreme abuses of power by the likes of Hitler, Mao, and Stalin in the first half of the 20th century for these ideas of leadership to be properly challenged. Leadership traits and skills. Academics also started to identify the traits of leaders to see what common characteristics made a good leader. In the early iterations of the theory, these traits were also seen as inherited and linked to the idea of the great man, the charismatic male hero who was tall and good-looking. This school of thinking evolved into identifying more positive traits such as integrity, moral courage, and humility. Importantly, there was also a shift towards characteristics that could be developed. As the emphasis moved from innate to acquired characteristics, the focus moved to identify leadership skills and behaviours that could be learned, such as communication, strategic thinking, and decision-making. Action-centred leadership. John Adair's action-centred leadership model was built on the premise that leadership skills and behaviours could be taught and adopted. The simple idea behind action-centred leadership is the need to balance the three core management priorities of task, team, and individual. A good leader must continually seek to achieve the task, build the team, and support the development of each individual. Transactional and transformational leadership theories. James MacGregor Byrne took the ideas of influence and behaviour in another direction when he defined the difference between transactional and transformational leadership in 1978. Transactional leadership is management using a carrot and stick approach. This functional style relies on basic human needs such as income and job security. These elements are related to the lower end of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Transformational leadership goes beyond transactional leadership. This type of leader seeks to inspire people with a compelling vision and lead them towards self-actualization at the top of the Maslow pyramid. Bernard Bass built on the work of Burns and defined the key behaviours of the transformational leader as being a positive role model, providing encouragement, and supporting followers to fulfill their potential. Situational leadership theory. The situational leadership model, developed by Paul Hersey and Ken Blanchard, took leadership theory in another slightly different direction. Their model is about having a flexible approach. It demonstrates how a leader can adapt their management style depending upon the experience of the team and the individuals they are working with, while also considering the environment and circumstances they find themselves in. The leader chooses their approach, either delegating, supporting, coaching, or directing, depending upon the situation. Values-based leadership. Values-based leadership developed in response to various moral failings of prominent leaders. This school of leadership, related to trait theory, encompasses both servant leadership and authentic leadership models. The central idea is that the values-based leader has a strong moral compass and leads according to their personal values and the shared values of their organisation or community. This model stresses the importance of being a good leader, not just a charismatic one, and the ability to make the right or ethical decisions, not just effective or bold choices. Servant leadership theory. The idea of the servant as leader was developed by Robert Greenleaf. This model of servant leadership is primarily about motivation. The servant leader wants to serve others and society by raising up new leaders and helping people to move towards a positive vision of the future. They are not seeking power for themselves. Instead, servant leaders share power and empower others. Toxic or bad leaders. At the other end of the scale, academics also started to identify the opposite of values-based or good leaders. Marcia Lynn Wicker popularized the term toxic leader, and various models have been developed to identify such bad leadership. For example, Barbara Kellerman's study identified 7 types of bad leader. These are incompetent, rigid, intemperate, callous, corrupt, insular, or evil. Authentic leadership theory. The term authentic leadership was first popularized by leadership practitioner Bill George. He wrote a book by the same name in response to failures of senior corporate management, such as the fraudulent behavior that led to the fall of energy giant Enron. George advocated for leaders of purpose, values, and integrity, rather than those motivated by greed and power. George's academic colleagues, Bruce Avolio and William Gardner, then developed models around this concept, identifying the key behaviors or traits of an authentic leader. These included
the great man theory. As a collective group, I will ask you to define this theory and write your answers on the flip chart. Also, please write out a few examples of great leaders that have not already given. Lastly, why is this theory now discredited? I will be back in 10 minutes to see what you came up with. The trait theory. As a collective group, I will ask you to define this theory and write your answers on the flip chart. Also, please write out a few examples of great leadership traits that people seem to be born with. Lastly, why is this theory now discredited? I will be back in 10 minutes to see what you came up with. The transformation leadership theory. As a collective group, I will ask you to define this theory and write your answers on the flip chart. After you have defined it, draw a line down the middle of the flip chart and put management and leadership on either side of the line. Discuss the differences between the two. I will be back in 10 minutes to see what you came up with. Julie and Mindy had worked side by side for over 5 years. They chatted between projects and took lunch breaks together. Julie was given a management position when the company was restructured, and Mindy became her subordinate. Mindy felt that it was unfair that she now had to take instructions from Julie, and her pessimistic attitude caused the department to lose productivity. Julie understood that it would take time to earn back Mindy's respect. She kept a positive attitude when working with Mindy and always kept Mindy informed of things that were relevant to Mindy's job. She assigned tasks to Mindy that she knew she could accomplish and gave appropriate feedback when work was delivered. Julie took responsibility for her decisions and didn't blame others when things went wrong. Over time, she gained Mindy's respect, and the department's productivity soared. Hey, look, Sakshi 1. Which of these statements about the evolution of leadership is true? C. It is important to understand why very different leadership styles can be effective, why the same leadership techniques will not work in every situation, and which leadership style fits your personality best. 2. What is the mark of a true leader? D. The mark of a true leader is not a position or title held, but it is how many people are willing to follow them. 3. Which of these is not a characteristic of a leader outlined by the Santa Clara University and the Tom Peters Group? D. A closed-minded person will not be a good leader. 4. Which of these is a leadership principle of the United States Army? A. The United States Army offers 11 leadership principles. Answer A is not one of them. 5. Why do the United States Army leadership principles not address what to do or say in any given situation? D. There is no real formula to being a leader. Leadership must come from within, and it is based on your personality. 6. Which of these categories have leaders typically belonged to in the past? B. Historical leaders were either political, military, religious. 7. Which of these statements is not true about the military leader? Sun Tzu. B. Sun Tzu was a military general in China from 500 BC. He wrote The Art of War, and although he was a great military leader, his book is actually about how to not use armies except as a last resort, focusing more on wise political policies and strategies to prevent war. 8. With the rise of the Industrial Revolution, what new kind of leader emerged? A. Modern leadership. Economic, scientific. 9. Which theory takes the phrase, "Great men are born, not made," literally? C. It has often been said, "Great leaders are born, not made." The trait theory takes this saying literally. 10. Which of these is the difference between a good leader and a great leader? D. The difference between a good leader and a great leader is partly the number of leadership skills they have developed. To close us out on Module 1 of Leadership and Influence, here is a quote from Murray Hopper. "You manage things, you lead people.